Division 2 players love damage over time. I should know, some of my best performing videos are dot builds, so it's time to get hyped for 6 videos in 6 days. 5 build guides with in-depth looks at how the builds are optimised, best in slot gear, and how you can tweak them to perfectly fit your own playstyle. And to finish up, all the builds and just the builds. So let's kick things off with a brand new build that supports a fast-paced playstyle and has a punch big enough to one-shot enemies. Welcome to the Firestarter. The nerf hammer came down hard in Seasons 2.0 on Brandsets as Massive took away some of the build diversity it had only just given us. But one Brandset got a nice buff, and it just so happens to be the exact one I need for this build. China Light saw its 3-piece bonus increase from 20% status effects to 25%. But it is the whole package that makes this Brandset so good for this build. Let me explain. The 1-piece bonus is 15% explosive damage. Now I know what you're thinking, this is a burn build, so why do you need that? And the answer is that this build uses one of my favourite exotics, the Vile Mask, which comes with the talent Toxic Delivery. This debuff deals damage over time, which scales off the base damage of my concussion grenade, which is increased by explosive damage. The 2-piece bonus is 20% skill haste, an attribute that I am stacking so that I can use my skills as often as possible. More on those very shortly. And then there is the 3-piece bonus, 25% status effects. Status effects helps buff my damage output in 2 ways. Firstly, the base damage of the Vile Mask debuff of half of the damage my concussion grenade does is scaled up by my total status effects attribute, which for this build is 95%. This means that the debuff will deal nearly 1.6 million damage. And secondly, status effects buff both the damage and duration of burn effects, which makes it a slightly better attribute to stack than skill damage, which only affects the burn damage itself. Albeit, I have rolled both of these attributes on all the Brandset gear pieces except for one. In order to buff the damage of both, I am using Glass Cannon on my China Light chest piece for its 25% amplified damage. This also buffs the damage of my main weapon, the Everlasting Gaze rifle. With the Seasons 2.0 changes, this rifle is now an automatic weapon, which will reduce the chance of an RSI in my trigger finger. But even better than that, it comes with the Talent Perfect Perpetuation, which buffs status effect damage and duration by 75% after a headshot. With these buffs, each tick of the combined burn damage and Vile Mask debuff deals 650,000 damage, which is without the global modifiers if you have them turned on. Layer in the Creeping Death talent on my China Light backpack, which spreads status effects to all enemies within 8 meters of the target, and this build can wipe groups of enemies in one shot. Glass Cannon is a great damage buff, but you might think that the 50% increase in damage taken as a result would make me too squishy. But I have built in 3 things that make it far easier to stay alive than you might think. Firstly, the Creeping Death talent in itself is an excellent way to crowd control large groups of enemies. When enemies are on fire, they aren't shooting at you, and with a burn duration of over 12 seconds, you have plenty of time to burn them down. Literally. Then there is the last 2 pieces of gear, both of which are Golem gear. This Brandset comes with 10% status effects and 1.5% armor regen. With 1 attribute rolled to armor regen and 1 with a blue core, I am running about 2% armor regen in total. Now I've gone with the Technician specializations for its skill tier and 12% damage to drone skills and robotics, all of which of course are immune to fire. But an alternative would be to go with the Gunner specialization for its 10% armor on kill and yellow cores on both Golem gear pieces. You could also swap out Glass Cannon for Overwatch, which delivers 12% weapon and skill damage after being in cover for 10 seconds. Clearly this will reduce damage output, albeit you could mitigate this a little by swapping out 1 piece of Golem gear for the Electric Brandset, which comes with 10% status effects for its bonus. But where's the fun in that? The final thing that I use to keep me alive is my secondary weapon, Scorpio. While the talent of this weapon has been nerfed a little, it is still a great way to crowd control enemies that have got too close. And the fact that the status effects it applies also triggers the Vile Mask debuff is just an added benefit. For skills, there are only 2 that really make sense for this build. The Burn Sticky Bomb is great because it deals both damage and applies burn, and with the aim assist on consoles, it is very easy to aim and fire at enemies in just one motion. The Firestarter Chem Launcher is a great companion to the one-shot sticky bomb, as it has the ammo to apply burn multiple times before it runs out. With the skill haste I have stacked on this build through the Channel 8 Brandset and 3 skill haste mods, I almost never found that I ran out of ammo before the sticky bomb was back up. This build is a ton of fun to use and has let me make some clutch plays that were just awesome. Do look out for the 4 other burn builds, links for which will be included here and in the description as they are published.